Okay, so cycle 2, guided notes, we're going to talk about mean, median, mode, range, and just finding those, what they are, and when to use which one. So these are called your measures of central tendency. I'll tell you here in a minute, there's one of them that's not technically a measure of central tendency. 3 of them are, and one of them is not. And so we'll find out which one is not here in a minute. For now, we're going to go ahead and start taking notes on what is mean. So in this box, when we talk about mean, we're going to talk about what, how, and we're going to do an example. So for all of these mean, median, mode, and range examples, we're going to use the same number set. Okay, so what? What is mean? Mean is the average or norm. So it's the average or norm of the given data set. How we find the mean, there are 3 steps. The first step is to add all of the values. The second step is to divide by the number of values. Oops, sorry, hold on. Okay, so it's a 2-step process. You're going to add all of the values, and then you're going to divide by the number of values, and that will give you your mean. So here's an example. We're going to use this number set: 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 9, and 16. So when I add up 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 16, the sum is 63. The number of values that I have, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 values. So I will take 63 divided by 9, and that gives me 7. So my mean for this data set is 7. Okay, let's head over here to median. So median is the middle value. How we find the median is we put the numbers in order. Which we should always do when we're working with data. So you put the numbers in order from least to greatest, and you find, oops, sorry. You find the middle number. That's your second step. Now, one thing to note is that if there's 2 numbers in the middle, then you find the mean of those numbers. So if there are 2 numbers in the middle, then you're going to find the middle of those 2 numbers. So what number is in between, directly in between those 2 numbers. So again, let's look at this same data set. So we have the data set 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 9, and 16. So the best way to do this is to mark one off of each side. So put the numbers in order is my first step, and I already did that. And so we're going to find the middle. So I mark one off of each end, one at a time, and I find that 7 is my median. So the median of this data is 7. Okay, so for mode. The mode is the most frequent value. So it's the number that appears the most often in your list of values. How you find it is just simply find the number that appears the most often. So mode is the most frequent value. How you find that is you just find which number is listed the most in your value set. So here's our example very quickly on this data set. So again, we're going with the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 9, and 16. So you can see that we have all of the numbers repeating just one time. They're just there one time except for our number 9. So 9 is our mode. Something to remember though is you can have more than one mode. So if there was an additional 2 here, then 9 and 2 would both be our mode, the mode of our data. So I said, we'll go ahead and go to range, sorry. Okay, range. Range is the difference between the lowest and the highest. Difference between the lowest and the highest values. How? We take the highest and we minus the lowest. So in this data set, I'm not going to rewrite it this time, but actually I will. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 9, 16. So we have our highest minus our lowest. So our range with this data set is 14. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So our range is 14. Okay, so I said earlier that 3 of these are considered measures of central tendency, but one of them is not. The 3 that are considered measures of central tendency are mean, median, and mode. That means that range is not considered a measure of central tendency. Okay, so once you know what mean, median, mode, and range are, it's important to know when you would use those. So the top of this paper says, although you have the option of finding mean, median, and mode with any number set, there are data sets that would be best represented by specific measures of tendency. So sometimes it's going to be best to use mean, sometimes it might be more accurate or more representative to use mode, and there are certain times when those options are better. So this first box says, the blank is the best measure of central tendency for data that represents frequency of choice, such as favorite color, clothing, shoe size, or most popular music group. On a histogram, this would be the blank bar. So the answer to this one is mode. The mode is the best measure of central tendency when we're talking about representing choice. And on a histogram, this is going to be the highest bar. Next one. If all of the numbers in a set of data are relatively close together, either the mean or the median can be used as a measure of central tendency. Let me try that again. Okay, so if your numbers are pretty close together, maybe you're dealing with shoe sizes of people in the class, you're probably going to have fairly similar shoe sizes, especially if you're all relatively the same age. So you could use mean or median. Mean and median can pretty much be used with any data set like that if the numbers are close together. Where you have numbers that may not be close together, so if a data set contains unusually large or small numbers, these are called outliers. the median is usually the best measure of central tendency. I don't know why that's not writing, but I'm trying to write median. So the median is usually the best measure of central tendency when you have like a really big number in your data set or a really small number in your data set. So if most of your numbers are around between 1 and 10, but then you have the number 20, then you're going to want to use the median to best represent that data. The outlier is really going to skew the mean, and so the mean will not be the best representative number of that data set. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to try to fill in this table by yourself and then unpause the video and come back and see the answers. And if you got any wrong, then maybe try them again or ask a classmate or ask your teacher to see if they can explain or you guys can find out what you did wrong in the problem. So pause the video now, fill in this table, and then come back to the video to find the answers. Okay, so you should have paused the video and filled in this table. So I'm going to go through the answers only. If you got one of the problems wrong, check with somebody, try them again, and then check with someone if you can't figure out what you're doing wrong. So when we're talking about touchdown score, and we want to find the mean, so we're going to find the sum of these numbers, the sum of our data, after writing them in order first, and then we're going to divide by how many we have, which we have five total numbers in our data set. So the mean for this data set is 3. The median for this data set is also 3, and the mode for this data set is 4. Mean or median can be used to best represent this data. If you actually notice, the mean and median are exactly the same. The reason is because there are no outliers. We're not talking about choice here, like favorite color, favorite movie, favorite sport, or anything. So mode wouldn't really be the best measure to use here. It's definitely going to be between mean or median, and either one of those would best represent this data set. Okay, so for shoe size, after putting these in order and adding them up and dividing by 8, since there are 8 values, you would have a mean of about 6.94. You would have a median of 7.75, and you would have a mode of 8. The best thing to use here is going to be probably the median, because there is one outlier. The number 1 is really low compared to the other values, which are between 7 and 9. So that 1 kind of brings this number down. It's actually below any of our values. So 6.94 is not a good average shoe size. We don't even have a shoe size that's below 7. So that 1 brings that number so far down that it doesn't really represent the data. So the best thing to go here would probably be your median. Your mode gives you a relatively good representation of the data, so that wouldn't be a bad thing here, but it's not really talking about choice and stuff like that. So the median would be the best way to represent this data. So the median because of the outlier. Okay, so hopefully you got all those right. If you didn't, again, just try to recheck it and see if you made a mistake or where your mistake was, and then check with someone in the classroom to see if they can help you figure out what you did wrong. So for this very last problem, this is something you'll see on a lot of like state tests or assessments that we have in the classroom, because it's more of an in-depth mean, median, mode, measures of central tendency question. So it says the Westland girls basketball team wants to have an average points per game total of 62. That means that they want their average to be 62. How many points do they need to score against Academy to give them an average of 62 points scored? So if you think about it, we're going to find the mean, to find the average, we add everything and then divide. So I'm going to add all of these scores and then divide by 5. So mathematically what this looks like is I have 55 plus 60 plus 35 plus 90 plus whatever this score is here, divided by 5, I want that to equal 62. So now this just becomes like a multi-step equation solving for this unknown score against Academy. So when I add 55, 60, 35, and 90, I get 240, plus this unknown score. When I add those, I divide by 5. I want to make sure I get 62. So now to solve for x, I'm going to times by 5 on both sides. So I have 240 plus x equals 310. Then I'm going to subtract 240, leaving me with x equals 70. So I know that at Academy, at that game, they need to score 70 points to get their average of 62. The best way to check that is to take all of these points, so 55 plus 60 plus 35 plus, 90 plus now 70, since we know what this x is, add all that up, divide by 5, and do you get 62? When you add them all up, you'll get 310. And there are 5 values. 310 divided by 5 is 62. So that would give you the mean of 62. So they need to score 70 points to have an average point scored of 62. Okay, so that's all of the notes. Go back, check some that maybe you didn't understand. If I wrote too fast on some of them, maybe go fill in the blanks, and we will see you in class.